When was the last time you thanked yourself? Not for being perfect, not for having everything figured out, but simply for not giving up, for getting back up after disappointment, for continuing when life became heavy, for surviving seasons that no one else fully understood. We celebrate promotions, achievements, milestones, but we rarely celebrate resilience, the quiet victories, the unseen battles, the ordinary days we almost did not make it through. Maybe it is time to appreciate yourself a little more because you spend so much time appreciating everyone else, your parents, your spouse, your children, your friends, your mentors, the people who believed in you, the people who helped you become who you are today. You thank them, you encourage them, you remind them how much they matter. But somewhere along the journey, you forgot to do the same for yourself. You became so focused on your mistakes that you overlooked your progress. You became so focused on what you still lacked that you forgot everything you had already overcome. Today is not about pride. It is not about pretending you are perfect. It is not about ignoring the areas where you still need to grow. It is about something much healthier. It is about learning to appreciate the person who has walked through every joy, every disappointment, every failure, every victory, and every ordinary day with you. It is you. Because before anyone else applauded your strength, before anyone else noticed your growth, before anyone else believed in you, there was a person who quietly kept showing up. That person deserves your gratitude. Part 1. You have survived more than you remember. One of the easiest things to forget is how far you have already come. The human mind has an interesting habit. It remembers today's problems more clearly than yesterday's victories. It notices what is missing more quickly than what has already been gained. That is why so many people feel as though they are still standing. They are standing still, even when they have grown tremendously. Take a moment and look back. Remember the version of yourself from years ago. Remember the fears that once controlled you. Remember the disappointments that almost convinced you to quit. Remember the nights when you wondered if life would ever become lighter. Now look at where you are. You are still standing. You learned lessons that pain could never have thought any other way. You became wiser, more patient, more compassionate, not because life was easy, but because you refused to stop living. Every scar tells a story. Every disappointment taught a lesson. Every setback developed a strength that comfort never could. The storms you survived did not only test you, they transformed you. Sometimes growth is so gradual that only you recognize it when you stop long enough to look behind you. So today, do not only look at the mountain that still stands in front of you. Turn around. Look at the mountains you have already climbed. You may discover that you are much stronger than you have been giving yourself credit for. Part 2. Stop measuring yourself only by achievement. The world has taught us to measure success in numbers: the size of the paycheck, the title on the business card, the number of followers, the house, the car, the awards, the accomplishments. None of those things are wrong. Achievement can be something to celebrate. But achievement was never meant to become your identity. Because what happens when you have a difficult year? What happens when you lose the job? When the business struggles? When life forces you to begin again? If your value depends entirely on what you achieve, then every setback will convince you that you have less worth. That is a burden no one was meant to carry. Your value is deeper than your success. You are more than your career, more than your income, more than your mistakes, more than your failure, more than your greatest accomplishment. The people who truly love you do not love you because of the awards on your wall. They love your kindness, your loyalty, your character, your willingness to keep going even when life becomes difficult. Those qualities cannot be measured with numbers, and they should never be overlooked. Appreciate yourself not only for what you have accomplished, but for the kind of person you are becoming. Because character will always outlive achievement. Part 3, celebrate the quiet victories. Not every victory receives applause. In fact, the victories that shape your life the most are often the ones that no one else ever sees. Getting out of bed on a morning when your heart feels heavy, choosing kindness after someone has disappointed you, going to work while carrying burdens no one knows about, praying when your faith feels weak, trying again after another rejection, smiling at someone else while quietly fighting your own battles. These moments rarely make headlines. No one hands you a trophy for them. No one posts about them. No one stands and applauds. Yet these quiet decisions are building something extraordinary inside you: character, resilience, patience, strength. The world celebrates loud victories because they are visible. Life is changed by quiet victories because they are transformational. Never underestimate the value of simply refusing to quit. Sometimes, surviving the day is itself a remarkable achievement. Sometimes, choosing hope is the bravest thing you will do. Celebrate those victories, because if you only celebrate life's biggest moments, you will miss the thousands of ordinary victories that quietly shape the person you have become. Part 4, appreciate your growth. Growth is one of the few things that is almost invisible while it is happening. It is like watching a tree grow. You do not notice the change from one day to the next, but return years later and the difference is undeniable. Your life works the same way. The wisdom you have today did not appear overnight. It was built through mistakes, through lessons, through conversations, through heartbreak, through forgiveness, through perseverance. You are not the same person you were 5 years ago. Perhaps you are more patient. Perhaps you are slower to become angry. Perhaps you recover from disappointment more quickly. Perhaps you have learned to let go of things that once consumed your thoughts. Those are victories. Do not ignore them simply because they cannot be measured. Sometimes the greatest evidence of growth is not what you have gained. It is what no longer controls you. The fear that once paralyzed you, the anger that once consumed you, the insecurity that once defined you, those things are losing their power. And that is growth. So take a moment today to appreciate the distance between who you were and who you are becoming. Because growth deserves gratitude, not only when you arrive, but every step along the journey. Part 5, speak to yourself with respect. There is one voice you will hear more than any other throughout your life. It is not the voice of your parents. It is not the voice of your friends. It is not even the voice of your greatest critic. It is your own voice. Every single day, you are having a conversation with yourself. The question is, what kind of conversation is it? Many people become their own harshest critic. They replay every mistake. They magnify every weakness. They speak to themselves with words they would never dare speak to someone they love. Imagine a close friend coming to you after making a mistake. Would you look them in the eyes and say, "You are a failure. You will never be enough. You always ruin everything"? Of course not. You would encourage them. You would remind them that one mistake does not define an entire life. So, why do we refuse to offer ourselves the same kindness? Speaking to yourself with respect does not mean ignoring your mistakes. It means correcting yourself without condemning yourself. Growth requires honesty, but it also requires grace because no one grows in an environment filled only with criticism. A flower cannot bloom without sunlight. The human heart cannot flourish without hope. Become the kind of person whose own words become a source of strength, not because you are perfect, but because you are still becoming. Part 6: Your story is still being written. Imagine reading a novel. You reach one chapter filled with heartbreak, loss, failure, disappointment. Would you close the book and say, "This story is over"? Of course not. You keep reading because you know there are more chapters ahead. Yet so many people judge their entire lives by one painful season, one failed relationship, one lost opportunity, one financial struggle, one bad decision, one difficult year. But life has never been made of only one chapter. Some chapters teach, some chapters heal, some chapters prepare you for blessings you cannot yet see. Every author knows something important. The middle of the story often looks very different from the ending. Perhaps this difficult season is not the conclusion. Perhaps it is the chapter that is preparing you for everything that comes next. Do not rush to judge a story that is still being written. Be patient with yourself. Trust the process of becoming. And remember, the most inspiring stories are rarely the ones without struggle. They are the ones where someone refused to stop turning the page. Part 7: Appreciate yourself, especially when you are down. Life has a way of humbling every one of us. No one escapes difficult days. There will be mornings when your confidence feels small. There will be nights when your heart feels tired. There will be seasons when nothing seems to be working. You will question yourself. You will wonder whether all your effort is worth it. You will feel tempted to believe that because you are struggling, you are failing. That is the moment when appreciation becomes most important. Not when life is easy, not when everything is going your way, but when you are down. Because when you are down, your mind has a tendency to forget the truth. It forgets every mountain you have already climbed, every obstacle you have already overcome, each prayer that has already been answered, every lesson you have already learned. Instead, it convinces you that this moment is the whole story. It is not. When life becomes heavy, pause for a moment. Remind yourself who you are. Remind yourself what you have survived. Remember the person who refused to quit when quitting would have been easier. Remember the courage it took to stand back up after disappointment. Remember the strength you found when you thought there was nothing left. Those memories are not there to make you proud. They are there to remind you that you can endure again. Appreciating yourself during difficult seasons does not make you weak. It makes you resilient because gratitude changes the way you see yourself. Instead of saying, "I cannot do this," you begin to remember, "I have done difficult things before." That single thought changes everything. It gives you endurance. It gives you hope. It gives you one more reason to keep moving forward. Sometimes, one more step is all you need.